This is episode 129 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Serena Norris. Serena is a house flipper, broker, and realtor at Heaton Dainard. She is the head of marketing at Limitless Financial Freedom Expo, and she is the founder of Scale with Serena. She has flipped or BRRR'd more than 125 properties. Serena, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts of all of these BRRRRs and flips, when was the first time that you remember being interested in real estate?
So I was interested in real estate at a very young age. My father and stepfather and grandfather were all general contractors.
Oh,
So
okay.
flew around remodeling a lot when I was little, and was obsessed with floor plans and houses in general. Like I was that kid, that weird kid that would ride on their bicycle everywhere around the neighborhood. And whenever there was a for sale sign, I'd go and get a flyer on this.
Yeah, that's the kind of weird I like.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I even walked into an open house and the brokers were like, "What is the kid doing here?" I'm like, "Parents." Yeah.
So after you go to college for something else, when did you come back to real estate and how did you know what time did you know that it's going to be the thing that you do?
Yeah. So I ended up going to college for graphic design, branding, and marketing down in LA. And I lived there for a few years. And I ended up, by the time I was 20, I had a time job being an in-house graphic designer for a high-end pencil company. And I just, over the next few years, just realized that I wanted to work for myself. I got introduced to a lot of business people and entrepreneurs, and I just kind of realized like they're just people. Like if they can do something, create something, and be successful like that, then I can too. I just decided at that point, like I didn't want to do freelance graphic design or start my own
Yeah.
company doing that because I wanted to be able to leverage more than just my time for money. And uh, I also, people I don't think appreciate how much time it takes to actually create that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to have to argue my worth. I wanted to be like independent and be in control of like my value. So I ended up not knowing what I wanted to do. So I moved from LA to Hawaii when I was 23 and lived out there for a year and a half, just like bartending, cocktail
Yeah.
waitressing. At the time, I had a friend out there that was kind of putting my ear, like house hacking, buying a duplex and renting out one side and living in the other and having to pay for your mortgage. And then he was like, "You have to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, read this book." And so I read that book. And then in addition, I was like obsessed with any sort of home remodeling show or flipping show or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just one day, it just dawned on me like an epiphany of going, hold on, I'm trying to figure out like what other thing that I have an interest in my life, but I'm not thinking about something I've always had an interest in and have a background in, and that's construction and houses. And then I can work for myself and then also build wealth, right? And then I'm looking at like Rich Dad Poor Dad's ideology, and
Yeah.
I was like, it's dawned on me. I was like, I'm going to flip houses and I'm going to acquire rentals, and then I'm just going to go from there.
What about the organizational side? Because that's one of your specialties, systems and organization, which I think is so undervalued just because contractors aren't usually great at that. They need the help. And once you get it, you can 10x somebody else's business by helping them figure out the scale. So where did that part come from?
Honestly, it it came from starting with very little systems and being 25 houses at a time. So
Yeah.
you can imagine like how busy, like when he's like, I need help, I dove in and was working like 6.5 days a week, like 14
Yeah.
hour day. Like
Which
I
is
don't
funny because he didn't think he needed help until he met you, but he has 25 flips going that he's trying to manage. That's okay.
know. And so yeah, it was back in the day, like where it was before the market shifted, where he could rely a lot more, like general contractors didn't have as much work. So they could like manage majority of the project and then he just get the realtor involved and then they would kind of do the quality control aesthetic piece. So he would
Yeah.
just make sure it just moves along and then it would get to a point where it'd be good enough to sell. When when I came on, it was like right then the market really started shifting where the contractors were like, give me a scope of work and so it's something I can bid or I'm going to go to this job. Right. And they were no longer like willing to kind of project manage.
Yeah.
And brokers also got busy too. So it ended up, we just became construction managers, and with the increase in pricing, with the construction, then we had to sub out more things, and manage. It got to the point where we were managing probably about 70% of the scope of work. So if
Yeah.
anything, I'm acting as a GC. So in order to like keep our scale, and my mind just went into like, what tools can we create? We were going like a lot of back and forth, and it was just me. A year later, we ended up adding a third team member, and that's where things get really sticky because that's where information it's like becomes so disorganized. And
Yeah.
so I started creating what I call centralized information tools. So very simple, like lists of our property addresses and lockbox codes. And then we ended up adding like the entity names to that, and then who was going to drive it that week, and a filing system that was organized, and started doing templates for scope of works, whatever, just trying to standardize as much as possible. I personally hate doing the same thing twice. Like if
Yeah.
it's repetitive, I hate repetitive tasks. I want to be innovative, not like routine repetitive. And so anytime that I found myself doing something over and over again, I was like, create a tool for that, create a
Right.
template,
Make a
create
form. Yeah.
make a something like and so I kept missing things. All right, make a checklist for that. And eventually it became so systemized where it's just decreasing our time and time and time. We had a long, like big evolution, but when it got to the point recently, a couple years ago, because we're all moving kind of going separate ways because Charles moved to Texas.
Yeah.
But at the end there of like our partnership and construction management together, it was very systemized to the point where I think like I visited a property probably 3 times, unless it was like a really, finishing out a basement, waterproofing, like addition, something like that. Like I'd probably have to visit a bit more. But we got so good at our planning phase at the beginning of the project and training our contractors to our system, which they appreciated a ton as
Yeah.
well. And then really we just had boots on the ground for quality control and reporting back to us. And I could manage anywhere in the world. Like I spent months in South Africa if I wanted to, and I had 7 or 8 projects going on at a time up here. Yeah, so system was key, honestly, to survive. If we didn't have them, we probably would have gone up long enough.
I think people think like, hey, well, it's a flip or it's a new build. You don't need to do an inspection. You do, because then you can take the whole report and say, here's 80 pages on everything that's not done. All of this needs to be done because when we go to sell, this is what the buyer's going to get. And this looks like it's a lot, even though it's ticky tack. You need to fix the ticky tack before the buyers get to it. So that then there's no requests, hopefully, other than, random stuff. But that can save you so much time, money, and save you losing a buyer. Because then if you do lose a buyer because of something kind of major that somebody forgot, then it looks like the house is worse than it is because then you're back on market. These are just things that go well beyond what a contractor knows. But I think if they understood the process better and you could all be on the same page, like this is a presentation, like going back to the design center, we have to market this. It has to look great on Zillow, but it also has to back up the photos in person. We can't have it look weird in person because you didn't finish something.
Absolutely. And it's such a great learning opportunity as well, because then you understand more and more what different home inspectors are going to call out,
Yeah,
the verbiage that they use too. So then that way you can use those remarks even and to refine your scope of work budget
exactly.
template to then have the wording. So then the contractors have finer instructions of what to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a learning, it can be a learning process with the contractor and you, not just with the home inspectors, but also like permit inspectors,
Oh God,
right? Like with the home
the
inspection and,
worst. Yeah.
and they don't always agree, but the thing is, it's not like, okay, what agree? Like what's going to be our, okay, or
Exactly. Yeah.
gonna fight metal escutcheons. Okay, like we can be here all day, but I just need them plastic so we get this signed off. Like it's so
Yeah.
dumb. But and that's where like building the relationship with the contractor too. Like we all want the same thing here, and And, this is a business to us as much as it is for you. And so the better that we do, then the more houses we can have for you. And the contractors, if they were on board, man, they loved working with us because they just knew that they're going to get house after the other. And it was going to come with a detailed scope of work, floor plans, a design package. So having to track down design information all of the time and paint colors and tile and all that kind of stuff. We purchased a lot of the fixtures and materials ourselves and just had them to pick it up. And so we didn't source all of that stuff. We got it down to make their life easier so they could maximize their effectiveness and efficiency. And then we could effectively control the quality of the job.